What's up everybody, I'm your host Big Kim, and today we are back with another Comically Boston breakdown episode, and today we're talking about The Penguin episode 2, Inside Man. And this was a 56-minute episode, and it was a really good one. A lot of things happened in there, they stuffed it all in. Yeah, let's get right into it, but it's also October 1st when I'm recording this, so Deadpool and Wolverine is now available to I believe buy or rent digitally, so I'm probably gonna watch that tonight. I'm real hyped about that. I had only seen it I think twice, so third watch incoming, and then later October 22nd they're gonna be putting out the Blu-ray 4K disc, and I'll probably buy that as well. But just to start off today's video, I'm not sure if this is in the last episode. I was really looking for it. I was like, I don't know if this shows up in this episode or if this will be later this season. But currently we're like middle of November-ish for the Penguin season. So we had finished Halloween in October and the Batman movie. So now we're mid-November-ish heading into December. So it's going to be winter time, like straight up winter time in the Batman 2. And this is a first look that we have of Gotham snowy. And it's like, you know, just maybe a little slight snow. It hasn't fully blizzarded yet, but there's some snow on the ground. And that's not good if your city's flooded right now, right? You're gonna flood the city and then freeze the city. I don't know, maybe that... I think everyone's assumptions are correct, and it might end up being a Dr. Freeze type of thing. But, you know, speaking of the Batman, it's always fun to bring up one of my favorite lines from the Penguin.
You are Elrod that says that?
Why? You got something to tell us?
Yeah!
It's like the worst Spanish I ever heard.
What? Jesus. Look at you two. World's greatest detectives. Am I the only one here knows the difference between L and law? Jesus. No habla español, fellas?
Do me a favor, shithead. Shut up.
Look at you two! The world's greatest detectives! What? No habla española? Fellas? You know, like, it's just such a funny line how he says it. He's like, it's like the worst Spanish I ever heard. You know, like, he's so good. But this episode, we finally get to see my boy Oz smoking on a stogie. Big old cigar, and that friggin' face makeup looks so good. We'll talk about that more later this episode. But I can't believe last episode and the way that they were torturing my boy, and poor Colin Ferrell. He said he had to do, I think, 7 hours just this one day when he had the full fat suit on, because fucking Oz is naked here getting tortured by Castillo, which is Lorenzo from Power. And he's like cutting his arms, got a gun in his mouth. I'm like, how the fuck are they gonna have my boy like this? Poor Oz. But let's get right into it. We open this episode hearing an eerie voice singing, "Hangman, Hangman," referring to, of course, Sophia Falcone, Kristen Milioti. And Sophia, we see, is in Arkham, and she gets pushed into a room, the same like interrogation room, but also that like room where it's like a glass and they're talking on either side. The same room that Batman had with the Riddler in the Batman movie, and he also had with the Joker in that deleted scene. So Sophia gets pushed in this room and she sees Alberto missing a finger, and then he gets shot from behind, and she's like, you know, we're all like, oh, what the fuck? And this is clearly all in her head. And we see that she's in a therapy session of some sorts, and there's like red light therapy going on, maybe causing her to remember this, but she's hyperventilating and she gets restrained and calmed by Dr. Julian Rush. Now, even that name, with the last name Rush, I believe there's a comic book character named Rush that I'm not too familiar with, but that was what I heard going around. People were like, oh, is maybe this Dr. Rush? And the actor they got to play him is a pretty good actor, so I'm like, okay, is this a false guy, and is he really like a Dr. Crane, you know what I mean, like a scarecrow type of guy? Just find it weird that he's the doctor of Arkham patients, you know what I mean? And historically, I think that role goes to Dr. Crane, like we've seen in maybe Batman Begins and Christopher Bale's Batman. Interesting guy to keep an eye on the rest of the season. But he goes, you're safe, you don't have to worry anymore, you're not in Arkham. She goes, I'm not safe, I'm home. And, you know, just pointing out the obvious here that even though Sophia's not in Arkham, she still kind of feels like she's imprisoned at her own home, you know? We cut from Sophia and we crossfade over through the title of the Penguin, and I just like how they did this one, an all black one where they crossfade from her into the Penguin sitting in his car. He's drinking Pepto. He's you know, clearly got some little stomach problems. He's trying to keep himself good, and we see that he's over at Blackgate Prison, which is kind of like on an island, so kind of like an Alcatraz type of deal. And he's, of course, coming to meet Maroney. And Maroney walks in, he's like, I didn't know this was a party. I would have brought something. So he meets Maroney's wife, and I think one of his sons at the table here. But we see that the Maroney mob isn't necessarily Italian, and they talk about this more in the after episode. So after the credits, they have the HBO breakdown, talking to the writers, the producers, the director, that type of thing, and talking more about the episode. And what was interesting that I heard in that about this Maroney family is that he married an Iranian woman, and she loved the Italian culture that he had, you know, so she came in, and then he loved her so much that he surrounded himself with not Italian mob, but Persian, Iranian mob. And, you know, this is normally an Italian versus Italian, Falcone versus Maroney. So I just find it interesting that in a high-level HBO show like this, you know, culturally diverse, you know, it's Italian over here, it's Persian, Iranians over here fighting, going to have to be at war with each other probably throughout the season. I mean, it's already episode 2, there's already kind of a war going on, mostly because of the Riddler's power vacuum. But now we're starting to see how the Penguin's playing into this, and how he has a direct hand in all of this, but is somehow pulling the strings and guiding this in a direction that certainly he hopes he comes out on top of. But he starts by hyping up Salvatore fucking Maroney. The streets are talking on how there's only one man that's strong enough to take down the Falcones, and it's Salvatore fucking Maroney. And he goes, you're walking around here wearing that ring, you might as well lean in, take credit. Of course, Oz is hyping up Maroney, and he wants to work with Maroney because he's flipping on the Falcones, but he also, you know, is trying to dump this Alberto Falcone body on Maroney. So Sal's just happy to have his ring back. So Sal's like, hey, I could take credit for this, or I could turn you into them and tell them that it was you that fucked up and killed Alberto, and watch them slice you up from ear hole to asshole. I love hearing Clancy Brown's voice, but just the way he said that made me laugh so hard. But Sal agrees he'll take credit for the Alberto body if Oz keeps his word with the drops. The drops, to me, I'm still like, oh wait, so the drops that he's promising the Maroneys are that like 30% drops that were saved that were contaminated with the water. So he's giving them not necessarily good drops, but it's all of the drops they had left from before the Riddler flooded the city. So Oz is planning with them. He's like, all right, the route's gonna be good, no highways, all after hours, it'll be great. You guys pull up, take out the lead cars, the van, and he goes, I'll be in the follow car. So as soon as we're about to see this route go down, Vitti shows up and goes, Oz, this is your job, you get in the truck, you do it. So Oz ends up in a place, you know, not according to plan, and where he doesn't want to be, in the truck. And I feel like this type of stuff's going to happen to Oz all season. He has a plan, it doesn't work out exactly as planned, so he's got to be quick and think on his feet, and honestly, that seems to be where he excels. So he's in the truck, and things are starting to go down. He's like, oh fuck, okay, they're about to come and do this. The driver starts telling a joke, a shitty joke about seagulls, and he goes, why we call them seagulls, and instead they fly over the bay? We would call them bagels, get it? Bagels, and nobody laughs, and he's like, yeah, I get it, thanks for explaining it. And then he turns around and tells the dudes in the back a joke, and he's like, what's the difference between the government and the mob? One of them's organized. And he gets a big laugh, and he goes, see, you just gotta know your audience. And the plan starts to go down. The Maroney's guy starts to take out the Falcone guys, and then Oz is, you know, in the friggin' truck. The driver gets shot, so he's like, okay, he's dead. Friggin' shoots the 2 guys in the back, so Oz survives. The guy opens the back of the truck to shoot him. He goes, oh, hold on, the drop's right here. The driver's still alive, turns around, shoots the Maroney guy. Oz is like, oh, what the fuck? And he's like, you fucking traitor, shoots the driver, or the driver just dies, or whatever happens. The truck crashes. He gets out, and then he sees Castillo, Sophia's guy, and, you know, doesn't want to just kill him in front of the other Falcone guys that are survived. So he friggin' shoots the guy that's about to kill Castillo, saves his life. He goes like, Castillo, get in the car, let's go! You know, and just abandons the drops and everything and takes off, because this is still, you know, even though it didn't go exactly as planned, Oz still kind of works out in his favor, because the Maronis still got away with all of the drops, so that was at least the part of the plan that the Maronis cared about. They didn't necessarily care if Oz was safe in the process, but Oz survives, because that's what he is. He's a survivor. So then back at the Falcone mansion, Vidi is giving Oz a hard time for losing the stash, and he's like, these are your guys, and he's like, I could have lost more of these guys, and he's like, he goes, this is all your fault. He goes, it wasn't my idea to move the product up to Robbinsville or whatever. He's like, you made the family look weak, that's why they think they can do this. And then Sophia steps in and sides with him like, hey, you're right, this is all you care about is the product, the money. You made the family look weak, that's more important. And so Oz is like, she's like, why are my brother's killers not strung up in the streets? And Oz is like, here. She's like, shut the fuck up. So Vidi kind of talks some shit on Sophia and's like, it's not up to you how this happens or when it goes down. And he's like, you don't call the shots, and neither does fucking Vidi. So the new boss of the family, Luca, which is Carmine's younger brother, you know, steps up and goes, hey Vidi, you're out of line, don't disrespect my niece. And he's like, meeting adjourned, you know, after all this happens. You know, everyone leaves, and Oz is like, hey, you need me to do anything, boss? And he goes, you've done enough. And so Oz takes this personal, he's like, fucking done enough. So he leaves. Luca asks Sophia to stay back. I do like Luca, the actor that's playing him, but, you know, he's not the boss. I feel like it should be Sophia or Oz rather than fucking, well, definitely not Alberto. So maybe this guy actually is the guy that's it's supposed to be. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. This Luca guy, I expect to die in the next couple of episodes. But he asks Sophia to stay back, and he's like, you shouldn't be worrying about the business. Maybe go on vacation. Just worry about burying your brother. And she's like, you know, fuck you, but alright, I'll listen to you because you're the boss of the family. You have to decide. And he's like, I'll let that slide because you're grieving. You know, like, and, ooh, Sophia's quick-tempered too. You don't want to fuck with her. So after Sophia gets dismissed from Luca, Oz stayed back to talk to her, and she starts like walking fast. He's like, what are we, running a marathon here? You know, like he's trying to keep up with her. But then he talks to her, and he's like, listen, they all think you're fucking crazy in there, and they look at you like you're crazy, but you don't need me to tell you that. He goes, that should be you in there and being boss instead of fucking Luca, his Carmine's younger brother. And what he's really thinking is that it should be me. I was Carmine's right-hand fucking man rather than these losers that don't know a thing about the business. But I love, she like, you know, hears what he's saying, and he's like offering a team up with her, and she hears him, but she's also very emotional and pissed about what just happened in that room with Luca, and she's also, you know, kind of sees through him. She's like, you fucking pathetic bitch. Oh, what do I need you for type of shit, you know, but at the same time, I also love her outfit. It's like a zebra jacket with red underneath. Kind of crazy looking, but very stylish. I really love that look on her. So Oz wants to team up with Sophia and continue on Al's dream of the enhanced drops and stuff like that. So, you know, Oz is keeping his options open. But after this, we see Oz talking to Vic, and he's like, they're trying to push me out. I was Carmine's right-hand man. Who do they think they are? You know, and then Vic sees something on a pole. I didn't get a good look at it, but I think it's like a missing persons type of thing on the pole, so he must have known whoever that was missing. Oz goes to Vic, if Sophia wants an inside man, I'll give her an inside man. And that's the title of the episode, Inside Man. So, you know, Oz is now the inside guy that's, you know, flipping on the Falcones for the Maroons, you know, isn't going to just get himself caught, you know, so he's got to frame a new inside man. So back at Oz's place, Vic screws up the taco order, and he goes, I said no cilantro. What do you want me to have, a bar of soap in my mouth? Stop picking, the girls are on their way. So he's having girls over, and Vic's picking cilantro off of tacos. We cut over to Sophia in a car hearing the radio station talking about the state of Gotham, how there's rolling power outages, and how they're letting psychos out of Arkham, probably because they don't have room to store these criminals because of the flooding type of thing. So they're just letting them out back on the streets. Particular psychos, they're let out of Arkham is the hangman, Sophia. They're referring to her, and they're like, Sophia Falcone is a serial killer, 7 women, and that's just the ones we know about. And that's like what we hear, so we're like, oh shit. It does say she got like exonerated or whatever, but like, come on, she fucking definitely killed more than 7, right? And those 7 that she did kill, or supposedly, allegedly killed, she definitely did, right? That's what I'm thinking. So back at Oz's house, Oz tells Vic about this old Falcone hangout spot where he was a bar back at the original like Falcone hangout spot, and a man named Pinchy was impressed on how he was taking care of everyone at the place and offered him a job as a driver. Oz didn't know how to drive, so he tells him how he, over the weekend, and he got offered the job on a Friday, so over the weekend he steals a Buick, drives all over the place that night, crashes it into a ditch, but then on Monday he takes the job as the driver, and the rest is history, you know, like, and he was like, I learned how to drive though, Vic, that's what happened. And then Vic goes, what happened to Pinchy? And he goes, oh, Pinchy got popped a couple weeks later for talking to the feds he got popped by Carmine, which is just ironic because Carmine ended up being a rat himself. And he goes, and the rest is history. Carmine liked what he saw in me, so I stuck around. And that's probably how he went from barback to driver for Pinchy to right-hand man, you know, around Falcone. But the girls show up, and it's his girl Eve, and she's brought a couple of friends over to hang out with Oz and Vic here. And I believe Oz invited a couple of his boys over as well. We cut over to Sophia at a bar. She corners the detective at the bar, who is clearly strung out. She says, you used to be dependable at finding snakes in the grass for my father. But he's a total drophead, so he's like strung out and shit. He's like, I don't want to work. And then she's like, what if I gave you these? She goes, you want to take them now? Take them now. And he like takes drops. He's all strung out. He's like, all right, who do we need to find? You know, like, and he does end up finding the guy he needs to find. So he's not a bad detective. He's just clearly a junkie and easily paid off. So not the best of police, but you know, it'll do for now. Cut back to the party at Oz's house, and he's giving a little toast, a little speech, and then he goes and talks to Vic, and he's talking to this cam girl, Roxy, and she has a funny-ass line. She goes, sometimes they work with cake, you know, like, and he's like, you got a sweet tooth, damn Vic, and, you know, kind of laughs, leaves them to talk, and she's like, where are you from? He goes, Crown Point, and she's like, oh, it's kind of like a no man's land over there. No Man's Land is a run in the comics of Batman comics. I haven't read them, but I very, very close to almost buying them a few times. Went right past the No Man's Land and got into like the Court of Owls stuff, but it's still on my list. I'll get into No Man's Land eventually. But poor Vic starts to like stutter and shit because he's super nervous, and she's like, okay, I skipped my last question because he's taking too long to answer. How do you know Oz? And he goes, I'm his driver, so I don't know, this might come back to bite Vic in the ass some type of way, being Oz's driver. But, you know, at the current moment, he's actually, you know, just happy not to be dead, and he's like, hey, I got a job, you know, I'm with Oz. He brought me to a party, but I ordered cilantro, fuck. But Oz goes into his room. Eve kind of follows him in there, and she, you know, calls him out and goes, hey, I know what my alibi's for, from episode 1, where he asked her for an alibi, and she's like, this alibi you asked me for, Oz, it's for killing Alberto, isn't it? And he tells her he's got everything under control, and she kind of sits on his lap, and, you know, they end up having a good evening afterwards because he reassures her that everything's going to be alright. And he's like, there ain't nothing that I can't handle with Sophia Falcone. You got nothing to worry about. But Eve's worried about her and her girls getting in trouble with the Sophia Falcone type. So, you know, she's rightfully scared, but, you know, she's with Oz, so she should be alright. But I have a weird feeling that Eve might get murdered or something, and that's going to flip Oz off, and oh, it's not going to be good. We cut back to Sophia gasping for air in this like kind of dreamlike state with cuts on her neck, and then we see her fingernails bleeding. Maybe she's scratching herself, but I don't know, maybe she's like thinks she's choking because of that collar thing that was supposed to be around her neck at Arkham. So it's the morning now, and back with Oz, and Eve's like, hey, I understand the gesture, but this is too much. And he's like giving her a whole bunch of cash for the last evening. And he's like, no, don't worry about it. He gets a call. She's like, everything all right? And he's like, just work. But it's a call about his mother. A neighbor named Caesar that Oz has been paying off to get information, or, you know, just to keep an eye on his mom type of thing. A neighbor sees her across the street saying she was late for church, but it's not Sunday. He thinks her dementia's getting worse. She needs permanent care. And he's like, oh, what, you're a doctor now? You know medical advice? And he goes, that's not what I pay you for. Pays him, sends him on his way. And Caesar here is like, God bless you, and then looks at Vic and says in Spanish, you know, be careful. Oz puts on a record, the record being Tears and Laughter by Dina Washington, and he starts to dance with his mother, and it's, you know, it's sweet, but then it also gets sad real quick. And she starts being like, I'm not going to be around forever. And he's like, God, jeez, I know. And she's like, if my son's a nothing, what does that make me? So, you know, she tears him down, but at the same time, you know, he knows that, like, I don't know. It's a complicated relationship between the two of them. But she's like, if my son's a nothing, what am I? And I felt this a lot. I was like, damn. Will my mother ever be proud of me if I'm a nothing? You know, that type of thing. I'm sure there's many men out there that feel like that, you know, they got moms out there that don't necessarily support them, and they're like, hey, listen, if I'm a nothing, my mother's a nothing, my mother's gonna think I'm shit throughout my whole life, and maybe I am, you know, and that type of thing, and they let their hateful mother speak invest into their brain, and then that's how they end up as a human the rest of their life. Not good. But Vic says he's late for the funeral, so, you know, he went to go check on his mother. He's late now for the funeral for Alberto. He really doesn't care about because he killed the fucking guy. But it's still probably good for appearances to be there. But as he's on his way out, his mom's like, Oz, and he's like, don't worry, Mom, I won't let you down. You know, you can see, like, the sadness on his face. Like, oh, man. But then he's late for the funeral, and he gets caught up in the street, which I have a clip for, of this stupid car. It's just little moments like this that make me laugh so hard in this show. Oh man, that's so funny. He's like, you know, the guy had plenty of time to go, and he like stops, he waves him, and then he stops. And you're like, he just looks at him like, come on, drive. You know, but like, I like how Oz stands on business. You know, like, if a car is letting you go, and you told the car to go, and they do the stupid, oh, no, you go. Motherfucker, I'm walking. You're in a vehicle. Move your fucking ass. You know, like, unless you're on a crosswalk, which he wasn't, you know, like, I'm the same. I would have done the same thing, Oz. Just stand there, and as they drive by, fucking look at them like, what the fuck are you doing? You know? But Oz is late, and the funeral's now over, so he tries to, you know, see Luca and goes, yo, Luca, I got something you want to see? And Luca just ignores him, keeps going. He's like, you fucking prick. Prick was in a hurry. And there's a crowd protesting, saying, you know, fascist, Sofia Falcone's a fascist, something like that. Either way, they're protesting that Sofia's out, and she's like over there smoking a cigarette all by herself. So Oz walks up and talks to her, and I love this little setting here, like the way the roof looks and just how they were, you know, together. So Oz walks up and talks to her, and she goes, I didn't see you in there. He goes, I didn't know you were looking, you know, like that type of thing. He goes, I was in the back. No, he wasn't. So he's lying to her again. But Oz talks to her about how he lost his brothers, which is probably the truth. So Oz is telling Sofia about how they didn't have a service for his brothers, and how just one night, after weeks of grieving, his mom took him to a jazz club. First time he's seen live music. He was like, wow. And they danced all night, and they had a great time. And after that, she was good. She went back to work. She started taking care of him again. And Sofia asked him, what do you think changed for her? And he goes, I don't know. She died a short time after that. So he wants people to know that, or think that his mother's dead. And his mother does have dementia. So, like, it's probably closer to dead than alive, if you know what I mean. If you've been around anyone with dementia that's got it real bad, it's not the best thing to be around. But Oz gives Sofia advice, and he's like, listen, he goes, you can dwell on the pain and the grief and all that, but it's a hell of a lot more fun to dance. You know, and it's like his advice middle of the episode, and that maybe comes back later in the episode. So Oz and Sofia get interrupted by Castillo's guy, and he says the detective's got information. So they get interrupted, they walk away. Oz gets a text saying, we need to meet, from a number that he doesn't have saved. And we find out that the information that was brought to Sofia is the detective that she paid off with drops, brought the Maroney's men to the memorial service, you know, like where they are at, and he's like, listen, he goes, you asked me to do a job, I did a job, this is the guy, this guy was the guy who stole your drugs, he's a Maroney's guy, he knows what the information, you're just gonna have to get it out of him. So they take their guy down to the basement. Oz gets called in by Maroney's wife, the Iranian woman I was talking about earlier this episode. And the Maroneys want their guy, I believe his name's Evad or something like that, but they want him back he was the guy that, you know, Sophia and Castillo now have in the basement. So the Maronis know that he's gone. They want him back, and Oz knows nothing about this. So he's like, hey, what do I gotta do? You know, like, give me a name, I'll find him, I'll figure it out. So the Maronis kind of press him a bit, and they're like, listen, what the fuck? You're supposed to know what's going on with the Maronis. What are we even, you know, being partners with you for? And then they like try to hold him. He's like, listen, my pocket, my jacket pocket. And she shows him the dirt on Vidi, and Vidi has been fucking Luca's wife. So Luca, now the head of the Falcone family, his wife has been getting fucked by Vidi, which is an underboss in the Falcone family type of thing, right? The pictures that Oz has are the proof. But I still find it funny that Carmine had this information, and instead of telling it to his younger brother, was holding this on for, like, you know, power, for, like, you know, for the right moments to tell him and get what Carmine wants, rather than, you know, have his younger brother's back. You know, it's just crazy how the mob works. So we cut back to the memorial with all the family standing around, and Sophia sees all the staring eyes and hears the little mumbling underneath their breath, talking shit. So she starts eating like a pig, kind of intentionally, and stuffing food in her mouth. At first it was nervousness, and then all of a sudden she kind of leans in and just grabs a handful of pasta, and just, you know, and I'm like, Jesus, this is how they're treating your inmates? This is how they're feeding you in Arkham? Damn. So Oz is driving in with Vic, and he's like, we could be driving into death's only way out is through. He's like, Vic, the red Mercedes is the one you're looking for. That's Vidi's car. So he's trying to drop the jewels into Vidi's car to make it, you know, frame Vidi. And Vic's kind of nervous and scared. He hasn't really done a job like this. And he's like, we're not just going to walk away out of fear, right? Right? Yeah, right. Fuck yeah, right. You know? I love the relationship between the two of them. It really does make me happy to see them all the time. Oz walks in and sees Sophia's guy guarding the basement. So he goes up to Vidi and Milos, and he's like, listen, he goes, I know what's going on. And they're like, what are you talking about? He goes, you're going to trust one of Sophia's guys to guard a Maroni down in the basement? I've been with the family for years. I was Carmine's right-hand man. This is disrespect. I can't believe you didn't trust me. And he walks away, you know, but he's a smart guy. Now he's pinning Vidi and Milos to go find out what's going on with the guy in the basement, and they're gonna find out that there's a Maroni here at Alberto's memorial. You know, like, what the fuck? So as Sophia's walking through the party, she sees like an old tape of Alberto and her when she was kids, and then she gets interrupted by her cousin Carla. And Carla is interesting to me because I'm like, she's the only one that has balls enough to walk up and talk to her. And apparently her and Carla were friends when they were younger, and she's talking about horny Italian boys and how they used to hang out and stuff. And she was like, we should go on a trip, we should do something. She goes, that would be nice. And then her daughter walks up and she goes, oh, who's this? And Sophia's trying to talk to her daughter and be like, I'm your mother's cousin. And you know, but Carla's like real protective and scared, like, with her daughter. And you know, Sophia sees this and is like, you should be real protective of Falcone women. You don't want to know what happens to women like that in this family. And it's like, oh boy, she's like, so now her poor cousin Carla's like terrified, but also like the only one that had balls to come and talk to her. I don't know. Something with Carla is going to come back with her and Sophia. So as Carla walks away, Sophia's about to get a chance to walk away, and Vidi's like, hey, Luca wants to see her. And so brings her to Luca. And then Vic, we cut over to him trying to put the jewels into Vidi's car, and he gets caught, and they're like, what's in the bag? And he runs, and you know, so he gets out of there, and he doesn't get caught, but he doesn't get the job done either, which is a problem. And so we cut to Oz down in the basement, right? So as now Castillo and Sophia's guy are now, you know, getting talked to by Luca, the boss of the family, and Oz now tiptoes down and starts talking to the guy in the basement. And he's like, Ivan, I'm here to save you. There's going to be a girl that walks in here and presses you for information. What I need you to tell him is that the inside man is Johnny Vidi, right? So he's really trying to pin Vidi. But during the middle of this, he gets a call from Vic, and Vic, you know, says he failed the job. So Oz pivots right on his foot there and goes, okay, listen. And the guy was like getting drugged and he was asleep. So all of a sudden he's like, all right, I'll tell Vidi, I'll say Vidi. And he's like, man, sorry, plans change. But like, look how good the makeup looks on Oz here. Like, Colin Ferrell's a handsome fucking guy, and just this face is so ugly but distorted, but also you can't keep your eyes off of it. The gold tooth, like, I'm so fascinated to know, maybe we won't, but maybe we will find out where that scar came from on his face. I'd be fascinated to know something like that. But Oz pulls out a knife and stabs the poor Maroney guy because plans change and Vic didn't get his job done, so now the Maroney's guy is dead down in the basement. So Oz kills the guy, and then they come in, Luca and all them come in, and they find the body dead, and they go, stop everyone from leaving. The inside man is here, and the person that, you know, killed this guy underneath our noses is tiptoeing around this building. So Oz is trying to walk out, and one of the security guy goes, Oz, come on. And he goes, what's going on? Where's Vitti? You know, and like, even for a moment, we still think like he's going to drop the knife on Vitti and still try and frame him, but maybe keep the jewels. But no, he keeps that Vitti card alive with the information, with the pictures, and the jewels still. But he ends up then planting the knife on Castillo, the guy that earlier in the episode he like tried to patch things up with, and also Sophia's guy, and he like saved him earlier just to let him die now, you know, like it's crazy. So they find the knife in Castillo's pocket. He goes, that's not mine, I would never, you know, he's trying to defend himself, and Luca shoots him between the eyes as Sophia was like, give me your gun, give me your gun. Nobody would do it. All of a sudden, pew, the guy gets shot between the eyes by Luca, and you're like, okay, so at least Luca is a killer. He's willing to, you know, make the call and kill him himself, but Sophia's pissed because she was asking for the gun, and he's like, Sophia, don't worry about it, I made the call, don't worry about the business, take some time away, my niece, go to Italy, do something. You know, so he doesn't want her around the business, so she's getting pushed out. And then we cut over to Oz, and he's got Vic digging the holes because Vitti gave Oz orders to clean it up, and he goes, it should be him in this grave instead of these two schmucks. And then he kicks Vic into the grave and tells him to get in it, and he's like, listen, get in there, that's where you fucking belong. And he's like, Oz, I'm sorry. He goes, lay down. So he's like laying down with dead bodies. You can see in the picture, there's two fucking dead faces behind Vic there. Poor Vic's been digging this hole all night. But he's like, you gotta be able to think on your feet. You gotta be able to do what you need to do. He's like, he goes, if not, this is where you belong. You're dead. You're dead if you get caught slipping. He's laying down in the grave. He's like, how does it feel to be down there? Don't close your eyes. Look at them. That's what it looks like when you choke. I almost got caught tonight because of you. He goes, I had to plant the knife. I had to do this. I had to do that. He goes, you put a lot of work for me, Vic. A lot of work. And Vic's like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And then he's trying to train Vic, and he cares about Vic. He doesn't want to kill Vic, but Vic needs to learn fast and quick, you know? And he was like, it didn't matter what Carmine threw at me. I always did it. Every goddamn fucking time. I always did it. And he's smoking a cigar while it's happening. And then all of a sudden he gets a phone call, and he goes, all right. He pulls him up out of the grave, and he goes, hey, listen. He goes, maybe you're just not cut out for this. He gets a phone call. He answers the phone, and it's Sophia sitting there smoking a cigar. He's like, Sophia, how are you? And then he goes to Sophia. We see Sophia is standing there at a grave of some sorts, and it is Carmine's grave. And it's like got the plaques, and we see that he was born September 5th, 1957 to November 5th, 2022. So now we know that when he got shot and killed in the Batman, that was November 5th. So that was already a week after the long Halloween, the week after Halloween type of thing. And I believe the date that they said on Alberto's grave was November 13th. So now we're like mid-November type of thing. I wonder if we'll get a Thanksgiving episode. That would be interesting. So we find out the jewels that Oz was going to plant in Vitti's car, he ends up putting in Castillo's apartment, and Sophia finds them in the apartment and goes, these were the jewels that Alberto went to find that night, and we were going to start our drug business together and the drops business with this money from the jewels. You know, and I love just like, she's like, what do you say, Oz, you in? And he doesn't even need to say yes. He just goes, let's dance. And they stand there together looking at the shit. And, you know, now I'm like, okay, shit, Oz and Sophia team up for episode 3? I don't know, man. She's crazy. She's not to be trusted. Clearly, Oz is not to be trusted either. So this is going to get messy real quick. And the credits roll in a Happy Together by Floor Cry played. I don't know what's going to happen in episode 3 of the rest of this season, but through 2 I'm ecstatic on how good this show is and how, you know, invested I am in the characters. I could care less if a Batman even shows up at all. You know, I'm following the characters of Oz. I'm trying to figure out what happens to him and how he comes to power or doesn't come to power, and whatever happens in between, I'm looking to figure that shit out, you know what I'm saying? But comment below your thoughts. What were your thoughts on the Penguin Penguin episode 2, Inside Man. Are you excited for episode 3 next week? Have you also been watching Agatha all along? Breakdowns for that coming this week and have been out already for the first 3 episodes. I genuinely think this show is so good. The streaming numbers have been great. I did see that through the first 5 days, I think, or 4 days, it said it was like 5.3 million, and then the first week for Agatha was 9-something million, and it said the first week for the Penguin was like 10-something million views, and the only things comparable to it are House of the Dragon and The Last of Us, which are the best performing shows for HBO. So we're talking the Penguin is in top 3 performing shows for HBO as a TV show. That's very impressive stuff for HBO. If you know anything about HBO's caliber of shows, that's impressive feat right there. But I would love to hear your thoughts on the comment section below. Little deep dive into what was going on in this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. My name is Bigg. If you want to follow me on my other social medias, links down in the description below. If you would like to support the channel further, like, comment, subscribe if you're new, hit that bell so you don't miss next week's breakdown episode of Penguin episode 3, and I will see you beautiful people in the next video. Peace.